afternoon, everybody. Welcome to City Council meeting of Monday, June 26th. We'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We'll declare it open. I'm going to ask Councilmember Pam Howitt if she'll lead us in the pledge and invocation, please.
You would join me in the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to gather here today to do the business of the city. We pray for your guidance. We pray that we will always remember the needs of our citizens and do our very best to take care of those needs. Please also be with our first responders. Be with them especially now when they might have to be out in dangerous heat. Be with all those who are working outside and keep them safe. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. All right, Council, we've got a couple of sets of minutes to approve this evening. We've got the called City Council meeting of June 9th, 2023, and the June 15th, 2023 called meeting with the GTUA bonds. Everybody have an opportunity to review those?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, at this time we have a proclamation. Is April here? April, if you'll come on up a minute, I'll read the proclamation for you. April's with the Workforce Solutions. I'll let you speak after the proclamation. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, was passed on July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities, and whereas Sherman, Texas affirms the principles of equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities as set forth for the state of Texas and as embodied in the ADA, the laws of the state of Texas and ordinances of the city of Sherman, and whereas numerous organizations in Sherman and Texas work with constituents and communities to bring forth the promise of hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA. And whereas July 26, 2023 celebrates the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now therefore, I, David Plyler, Mayor of the City of Sherman, Texas, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim July 26, 2023 Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day in the City of Sherman, and urge all citizens to recognize the progress that has been made by reaffirming the principles of equality and inclusion and recommitting efforts to reach full ADA compliance. So with that, April, I'm going to very much, and if you'll say a few words, please.
I just want to say that 1 in 4 people have a disability in the United States. It's the largest minority group, and it is equal opportunity. Everyone will likely have a disability of kind, and that there is lots of help we offer at Workforce through vocational rehabilitation. And I've left a flyer on the back too. Children with disabilities, July 11 at the Sherman Library.
Okay, we are to citizen comments. Is there anyone here to speak on any item in the agenda this evening? Yes, sir.
My name is Harold Rogers, and I own a piece of real estate and operate a business at 217 West Pecan Street. And what I'm here to discuss, or at least comment on, is the potential municipal campus that's being considered that you guys spent about an hour on during your budget session. And so what I wanted to do is, first of all, put a face to a piece of property, because when you look at this map and this picture right here that you guys saw, right here is the piece of property. It's a business I've owned and operated for 20 years. And this is scheduled, if this thing goes through, for me to have to vacate a business that I've operated in that location for 20 years. So just want to make sure everybody's aware that, if this thing were to come to fruition, and some of the numbers that I've seen discussed on the YouTube video were pretty significant when you're talking about moving the downtown area to this municipal campus at the tune of $30 to $40 million. Now, I'm hopeful that the city council will prioritize some of the needs that we have for infrastructure, for the $17 million worth of park improvements and all that, over this extremely nice, expensive municipal campus that will, at a minimum, take 3 businesses that are already operating, my business for the last 20 years, and have us have to move and relocate our business out of the downtown area. So please take that under consideration. And I know I'm going to be monitoring this situation and will more than likely be back in front of you guys as the situation develops.
Okay, thank you. Yes, if you'll come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Vernon Kruger, 1400 Western Hills Drive here in Sherman. I'm here to speak on agenda item F1, which is the proposed CO bond, which includes approximately $20 million for our city hall. My office right next to Harold. It is an ongoing law practice, which I get taxed on every year. I have some questions that this may not be the appropriate time, but my questions would be to fund this at this point when we have multiple needs for roads, water, and everything else, and we're looking at putting more of a tax burden on the citizens to fund something that is probably a needs list instead of a wants list, because we've got roads that need to be repaired. We've got roads that flood when it rains. We've got streets buckling. And I believe, and I would ask each of you to consider as this goes forward, what is the best need for the most number of citizens? How many people are in this office building 40 hours a week? How many people are in here 40 hours a week on a monthly basis? How many citizens? What's the traffic flow of the number of citizens that come through this building? Is a greater use of $20 million to fund just a building with a park that maybe 5% of your citizens use, 10% at most on an average basis? Or is it to put roads, water, and cut out the increasing of our taxes to fund things that aren't necessary? Certainly, I don't think should be a priority. I, like Harold, will be monitoring the situation because it affects me directly. It affects my business. And I would just ask you, as you go forward and look at approving this $77.75 million bond that you're wanting to get approved, that you don't forget your citizens who have to pay the taxes. We'll be looking at a almost 4% tax increase on our property. We're going to be looking at increases on our water rates. We're going to be looking at increases on our storm runoffs of up to $3 per lot, according to the information I've reviewed. That's a lot of extra burdens you're putting on people for something that may not be an absolute necessity at this time, especially due to the potential revenue issues with all the major constructions that's going on with TI, with the streets, the roads, the new developments out in the west part of town. And I would just ask for your consideration as we go forward. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. All right, council, we'll move on to is there anyone else before we move off that? Okay, move on to the consent agenda. These items are to be considered routine and will be enacted in one motion without discussion unless other council member or citizens request a specific item be discussed and voted on separately. The consent agenda includes items F5 and F6. Would anybody like these broken apart for any reason?
Move to approve the agenda item under asterisk, single asterisk.
Okay,
Second.
motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item are the double asterisk. These are the items considered to be routine and will be enacted on motion subject to the staff review letter without discussion unless a council member or a citizen requests a specific item be discussed and voted on separately. There's only one of these, G1. Council,
Motion to approve. Second.
okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are to public hearing. Linda, if you'll read E1, E2, E10, and E11 together.
E1, E2,
E10 and 11.
10, and 11. Okay. Ordinance 6597, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Sherman, Texas, Chapter 14, Zoning Ordinance, Sections 14.03.007, Blaylock Commercial Overlay District, 14.03.009, Central Business District Overlay District. Ordinance 6599, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending ordinance number 3229 and the Code of Ordinances of the City of Sherman, Texas, Chapter 1, General Provisions, Article 1.10, Heritage Row Historical District, Division 1, Generally, Section 1.101003, Boundaries, modifying the boundaries of the Heritage Row Historical District to include all property within 100 feet of either side of the right-of-way of South Crockett Street, beginning at the center of the intersection of West Cherry Street and South Crockett Street, and ending at the center of the intersection of West Hester Street and South Crockett Street, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas. Ordinance 6607, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, to rezone a tract of land consisting of 1.767 acres, being Block 9 of original town plat in the Grayson County Justice Center, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located at 200 South Crockett Street, heretofore zoned MF 30, Multifamily Residential District, rezoning and placing the tract in the C1 Retail Business District. Ordinance 6608, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, and granting a specific use permit to allow a correctional or detention facility or jail in a C1 Retail Business District, Central Business District overlay, located at 200 South Crockett Street.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Rob?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. A lot to go over for these related items. I'll start with the item E1. This is a zoning ordinance update to address two items that two different applicants had requested. One was a zoning text amendment in the Central Business District to allow a correctional facility in a sub-area located within the Central Business District. That requirement would also provide that parking would be allowed or required by the correctional facility adjacent or directly diagonal to the correctional facility. The other item on that zoning ordinance update is in the Blaylock Commercial Overlay District. There is a request by a hotel operator to update the ordinance, that overlay district, to allow a hotel use with an SUP, a specific use permit. So that's item E1. E2 is a request of the county to modify the Heritage Row Historical District boundaries to change the northern boundary from Jones Street to Cherry Street, this isn't their request, but our request was to specify the boundaries to detail it that it was 100 feet from the right-of-way of Crockett Street, the boundaries for that Heritage Row Historical District. That's E2. E10 is a rezoning on the property at 200 South Crockett. This is the Grayson County Jail and Justice Center. A portion of that tract is currently zoned MF30. The county is requesting that to be rezoned to C1. And then the last item, E11, is a request by the county to locate a correctional or detentional facility with a specific use permit in the Central Business District at 200 South Crockett. This item is conditional on the approval of E1, the zoning ordinance update. So those are kind of an update on all those items. Planning and zoning voted to approve all of them 7-0. The only one that had conditions was the last one, E11. Planning and zoning added 3 conditions to that specific use permit: that it be tied to the applicant, Grayson County, it be tied to Grayson County as their primary jail facility, and that it expire within 5 years to allow for a follow-up on some of the other commitments that the Grayson County has mentioned. I will state with that SUP that Grayson County has committed to firstly recommending the text amendment for the zoning ordinance, the central business district, to also go in a deed restriction with the city of Sherman and with the county to essentially keep that lot locked in to this development, so they can't grow anymore in this location. That's one of the other the things that the county has committed to. The last one is that they've committed that in the next 5 to 10 years, that the county would relocate the probation office and the election offices, and within 15 to 20 years that they would relocate the jail out of the downtown. It is my understanding that Grayson County met about planning and zoning's actions and did not support the 5-year time limit that P&Z had issued, and that the deed restriction potentially would not be executed if that 5-year timeline was granted by the city council. So it's staff's recommendation that we exclude that item on the SUP. I have provided a revised copy of the ordinance 6608 at each of your places, with that item removed from the SUP. And so in that version, it no longer has the time limit of 5 years. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone here to address this item? Good evening, Judge.
Good evening. Yes, the deed restrictions that we agreed to originally didn't include the 5-year SUP. So it was when we're going out for a 10-year bond to build the expansion, they're kind of asking, well, what is this 5-year stipulation? So we're asking that the council consider removing that 5-year SUP. We are perfectly fine with in the deed restrictions that it's stating specifically that it's single source, single owner use. In other words, we're not going to build a new jail and then sell the old jail to a private company or anything like that. The only time it will be utilized as a correctional facility will be under our direction, and that's it. I haven't looked at the new ordinance yet, so I can't speak to it. But I'm here to answer any questions that you may have concerning the SUP, the 5-year SUP.
Okay. And we'll get to those when we close public hearing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Myron Dornick, 2323 Ross Avenue, Dallas, Texas. Here also on behalf of Grayson County. The only additional item that I think we would ask for is that the ordinance that goes with item E1 was described as allowing parking across the street or diagonally across the street, but I don't think that was included in the ordinance. And so we would ask that that be a condition of the approval for that ordinance as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item? Okay. Linda, if you'll read item E3 for us, please.
Ordinance 6600, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, to rezone a tract of land consisting of 252.52 acres, being a tract of land situated in the Thomas J. Shannon Survey, abstract number 1136, the R.O. Barrett Survey, abstract number 186, the W.F. Patterson Survey, abstract number 969, the Hilliard Jennings Survey, abstract number 639, and the Samuel M. McLaughlin Survey, abstract number 811. City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas. located in the 1901 to 2501 blocks of East Pecan Grove Road and the 4801 to 4901 blocks of Park Vista Boulevard, heretofore zoned R6 Single Family Residential District and C2 General Commercial District, rezoning and placing the tract as a PD planned development of Pecan Grove Estates zoning classification.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Rob?
Yeah, this item is a large property, 250 acres, that the developer is wanting to rezone from R6 single family to a planned development. The developer is proposing a mix of housing types and a small portion of commercial property and multifamily and also single family for rent at this location. The current plan development, the development plan limits the amount of units, 50-foot lots to 360 units, 40-foot lots to 200 units, and they wouldn't be able to have more than 15 acres of townhomes in the single family portion of this development. The applicant did host a community meeting for the communities of Pecan Grove Village and Vista Norte in advance of the P&Z meeting. And Planning and Zoning heard this item in May and voted 7-0 to recommend, and did that approve that subject to the staff review letter, our review from Half and Associates that they do, that concurrence letter, and that all the properties or the property located along Park Vista Boulevard would have additional regulations regarding setbacks and lot size and things like that. So they had a minimum 40-foot front setback to match the surrounding houses. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is David Califer with Peloton Land Solutions, representing Cadence Capital. My address is 11,000 Frisco Street, Suite 400, Frisco, Texas 75033. As Rob mentioned before, we did host a meeting here in the chambers. Got some good feedback, which we then went back and modified our plan development. We actually upped our minimum square footage of the houses based on what y'all currently have in your ordinances. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else to speak on this item? Okay. Not Linda, if you'll read E4 for us, please.
Ordinance 6601, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, to rezone a tract of land consisting of 3.812 acres in the Alexander Richards Survey, abstract number 42, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located in the 5101 block of North Travis Street, heretofore zoned R6 Single Family Residential District, rezoning and placing the tract in the CN Neighborhood Commercial District zoning classification.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Rob?
This is a rezoning from R6 to Neighborhood Commercial, CN. Planning and Zoning heard this item on May 16th and approved it 7-0. The proposed use is compatible with our comprehensive plan.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? Okay. Linda, if you'll read E5 for us, please.
Ordinance 6602, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, and granting a specific use permit to allow a hotel or motel in the Blaylock Industrial Park, PD Planned Development District, Blaylock Commercial Overlay District, located in the 301 block of West Travis Street, consisting of 3.024 acres, being a tract of land situated in the Preston Kitchen Survey, abstract number 667, Lot 1, Block 1 of the preliminary plat. Crossroads Spring Hill Suites, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas.
Thank you, Linda. Rob?
This item is for specific use permit to allow a hotel in the Blaylock Industrial Park in the Blaylock Commercial Overlay District at West Travis Street. As mentioned earlier, this item is contingent on E1 getting approved. That zoning text amendment applies to this item. The developer is planning on constructing a Spring Hill Suites. It would have 125 rooms. It would be 5-story and 80,000 square feet. Planning and Zoning heard this on May 16th and approved it unanimously.
Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening?
Old school, if you don't mind. Thing you want, just need that sort.
Afternoon, Mayor, Council. My name is Tom Kirkland. I'm the founder and president of TechMac Development Company. It is our desire to build the Marriott Spring Hill Suites at Sherman Crossroads. This will be our 5th Marriott Spring Hill Suites to build and develop. Also would be make it our 10th Marriott project to develop. I'd be glad to tell y'all a lot more about it, so I'm here to answer any further questions that the council might have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to address this item? Okay, if not, Linda, if you'll read E6, E7, and E9 together, please.
Ordinance 6603, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, and granting a specific use permit to allow a mini warehouse in a C2 General Commercial District located at 4800 Texoma Parkway, consisting of 43.9389 acres in the John Hendricks Survey, Abstract Number 50, the W.F. Patterson Survey, Abstract Number 969, the Daniel Shelp Survey, Abstract Number 1097, and the T.J. Shannon Survey, Abstract Number 1136, and being a portion of Blocks 1, 2, and 4, and all of Block 5 of Midway Mall, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas. Ordinance 6604, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman, Texas, amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, and granting a specific use permit to allow warehousing in a C2 General Commercial District located at 4800 Texoma Parkway, consisting of 53.1534 acres in the John Hendricks Survey, Abstract Number 50, the W.F. Patterson Survey, Abstract Number 969, the Daniel Shelp Survey, Abstract Number 1097, and the T.J. Shannon Survey, Abstract Number 1136, and being a portion of Blocks 1, 2, and 4, and all of Block 5 of Midway Mall, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas. Ordinance 6606, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, to rezone a tract of land consisting of 43.9389 acres, Tract 1 being 42.8134 acres, in the John Hendricks Survey, Abstract Number 503, W.F. Patterson Survey, Abstract Number 969, the Daniel Shelp Survey, Abstract Number 1097, and the T.J. Shannon Survey, Abstract Number 1136, Lots 1 and 3, Block 1, Midway Mall. And Tract 2 consisting of 1.1255 acres in the John Hendricks Survey, Abstract Number 503, and the W.F. Patterson Survey, Abstract Number 969, Lots 5 and 7, Block 1, Midway Mall, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located at 4800 Texoma Parkway, heretofore zoned M1 Light Manufacturing District and C2 General Commercial District, rezoning and placing the tract in the C2 General Commercial District classification.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Rob?
I'll start with item E9 first. It's a rezoning of the property where Midway Mall is located at. Currently, it's zoned C2 on the eastern portion of the development, and it's zoned M1 on the western portion. So the applicant is wanting to rezone it all as C2 to allow for the other proposed uses, which is items E6 and E7. Currently, the Midway Mall owner would like to redevelop the site where they keep retail on the eastern third portion of the building. They would like to do a mini warehouse on the center portion of the building, and then do regular warehousing on the western portion of the current Midway Mall. P&Z heard these 3 items in the May meeting and all voted to approve them 7-0. No conditions, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening?
My name's Ryan DeLong. I'm at 4800 Texoma Parkway. Basically, all I have to say is, as part of our redevelopment of the mall, a request that was approved, we just want everything to be C2. The reason being, we want to have self-storage warehouse retail. We understand that any approval would be subject to the staff report. So okay. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys have about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to discuss this item? Okay. If not, Linda, if you'll read E8 for us, please.
Ordinance 6605, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, and granting a specific use permit to allow a mini warehouse in a C1 Retail Business District, FM Highway 1417 Overlay District, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located in the 3600 block of Steeplechase Drive, consisting of 3.002 acres in the Elizabeth Jones Survey, abstract number 625, and being Lot 5, Block 1 of Bearcat Crossing Addition, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Rob?
This item is to allow for a mini warehouse, a specific use permit for a mini warehouse in a C1 district at 3600 Steeplechase Drive. This is just located just west of the Sherman High School. Planning and Zoning heard this item at the May meeting and approved it 7-0. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Jeff Harkinson. I live at 5109 Palomar Lane in Dallas. And the reason that this application is coming before you is the depth of the property. You may recall we acquired this from the city of Sherman not that long ago, a year or so ago. Is the depth of the property is too deep to allow for most retail commercial uses. So we felt the highest and best use was to take this back part of the property and use it for self-storage. And it's going to be developed to a high standard. We're instituting CCR similar to what we did at Sherman Crossroads. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Harkinson. Is there anyone else to discuss this item this evening? Okay. If not, Linda, if you'll read E12 and 13 together, please.
Ordinance 6609, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance Code of Ordinances Chapter 14 to rezone a tract of land consisting of 17.284 acres, being Lot 1, Block 1, Sherman Gateway Addition, Benjamin Lindsay Survey, abstract number 733, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located in the 301 to 401 blocks of East Shepherd Road and the 7001 to 7201 blocks of South Highway 75, heretofore zoned FM 30 Multifamily Residential District and MA Light Manufacturing District, rezoning and placing the tract in the MF 30 Multifamily Residential District, 75 and 82 Overlay District zoning classifications. Ordinance 6610, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance Code of Ordinances Chapter 14 to rezone a tract of land consisting of 39.775 acres, being Lot 6, Block 1, Sherman Gateway Addition, Benjamin Lindsay Survey, abstract number 733, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located in 301 to 401 blocks of East Shepherd Road and the 7001 to 7201 blocks of South Highway 75, heretofore zoned M1 Light Manufacturing District and MF 30 Multifamily Residential District, rezoning and placing the tract in the M1 Light Manufacturing District, 75 and 82 Overlay District zoning classification.
Thank you, Linda. Rob?
Yeah, these two items are connected. This is part of the Sherman Gateway project. They previously came in and did get a zoning for these two zoning classifications, but have since changed their site plan. The boundary line between the two developments has changed because the alignment of that roadway has changed. So this is just a minor shift of the two zoned properties that they needed to rectify. Planning and Zoning heard the item and approved it unanimously.
Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening?
Good evening. My name is Steven Selu. I'm with Bowler Engineering, address 2600 Network Boulevard, Suite 310 in Frisco, Texas. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Anyone else on this item? All right, if not, Linda, if you'll read E14 for us, please.
Ordinance 6611, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Sherman's zoning ordinance Code of Ordinances Chapter 14 to rezone a tract of land consisting of 8.934 acres in the G.W. McLaughlin Survey, abstract number 827, and being part of lots 2, 3, and 4 in Block 3 of the Hill Smith Estates, City of Sherman, Grayson County, Texas, located in the 2000 block of North Duke Drive and North Dutchess Drive, heretofore zoned R6 Single Family Residential District, rezoning and placing the tract in the R2F Duplex Residential District zoning classification.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Rob?
This was an item from the April P&Z meeting. It was a proposed rezoning from R6 to R2F, which is a duplex zoning district. At the April meeting, it was denied by Planning and Zoning Commission 4-2. The applicant has requested an appeal to council on this. As part of that appeal, if it were to be overturned, it requires 3/4 vote or 6 of the 7 council members. And be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item?
My name is David Vilbig. I'm the engineer on the project. My address is 517 West Woodard in Denison, Texas. This is a very challenging site. There are 2 oil lines on this site, which is the reason it never developed before. One of those oil lines will be abandoned. The other one must be relocated. The owner, the developer, and the builder are all the same person, and they feel like the highest and best use is for the duplexes. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, David. Anyone else on this item? All right, if not, we'll close public hearing and consider adoption of the ordinances. Council, questions, discussions on these items?
Can I address one more item, please?
Yes, go ahead,
In
quickly.
ordinance 6608, I think the intent of the Plan Commission was that the SUP would terminate if the facility is not the primary jail, but I think your ordinance says is the primary jail.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Dornick, while you're there at the podium, can I just clarify, with that change that you just suggested and handed me a minute ago, is the county supportive of that language and would sign the deed restriction if the council approved the change that you handed to me,
That's
including the conditions
Yeah.
that are there?
And I think it should be or, because I think the intent was instead of, both things happening, it would be either one.
Okay, but just to clarify for the record, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, council, question, discussion on these items.
I'm just trying to figure out in what order we need to attack.
Yeah. Let's just start at the top.
Let's do all this.
Just start at the top.
Okay, let's do.
Let's do the jail.
Yeah, let's do all the ones related to that.
All right. Okay.
What is?
So you're going to
starting E1?
E1, E2,
Yeah, 10 and 11.
E10, and 11.
6597, 6599. and
6609.
6607 and
66. Yeah.
That's right.
66. You got it.
6608.
Ryan, with this change in language, can you specify what needs to be in there, and does that need to be singled out?
Yeah, so this is the document that Mr. Dornick handed me, and in section 9 on page 2 of 4, you have it in front of you. You may not have. Yes, you do actually have the draft ordinance in front of you. This is the ordinance that was the alternative version of the ordinance that Mr. Ray provided to you at this meeting, not the one that was on the agenda as part of the agenda materials that were posted. But on section 9 on page 2 of 4, there are 2 changes that the county is requesting and that I'm okay with based on Mr. Dornick's representations. In the very last line of that paragraph, section 9.
Section 2, number 9?
Yeah, number 9, page 2.
Yeah, sorry, section 2, item 9. That's right. Yes, sir. Thank you. So it should read, the owner and operator of the facility or the facility is not the primary jail. And I think that was the intent. I think that's just a clarification in the language.
Or not.
So if you were inclined to agree with that change and agree with the rest of the ordinance as drafted, the motion would just need to make clear that you were also okay with that change as well.
And again, we would ask that the 5th anniversary language be removed as well.
Right. That language is not in the version that was placed at your places
by
Mr. Ray.
Ryan, just because I'm not an attorney, could you please try and clarify for me what the difference really would be with the word or and in there, please?
It just means that so there are 2 conditions that are stated in that paragraph. And so the county would have to comply with both of them. So in an independent
Okay.
violation of one of the conditions would be sufficient for the SUP to be revoked. So it's an or, not an and.
Okay, thank you.
Then I would make a motion to approve 6597, 6599, and 6607 as
Council member, could I ask you, are you wanting to make that motion with the language change that we just spoke about?
Yeah, we're going to do 6608 separate. So
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
We have a motion.
But, sorry, Council, if I could have one privilege here. That Mr. Dornick raised a question about item E1 and the parking issue. That's 6597. And I just wanted to clarify for Mr. Dornick and anyone else that language is in that ordinance that's proposed. It does address the parking for the correctional facility.
I guess I'd second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. 6609. 8, that's right.
So we're going to 08 now?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Oh, wait.
I would move to approve item 6608 with the changes in section 2, item 9 to read notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, the specific use permit granted in this ordinance shall automatically expire, terminate, and be rescinded in the event that a person or entity other than Grayson County is the owner and operator of the facility or the facility is not the primary jail.
Okay.
Second.
Motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council.
Okay.
6600.
Okay. I've got a generalized question about almost every one of these next items. So, but this is just one question, hopefully solves it all. There's a few of these items that are asking us for a site plan approval with the zoning. E4, I think, was one of those. But the site plan wasn't provided in our agenda packet, and I've noticed that on several different items. Is that something that is going to be more normal moving forwards, that we're not going to see the site plans? I know it was provided to P&Z, and I saw it in the communication, and I saw it on their agenda. So I've seen the site plan. I'm just curious, site plan and elevations aren't provided to us here.
Yeah, it's a relatively simple answer. If it's with a SUP, a specific use permit, we do want that site plan to be tied to that specific use permit. So that's why you will see sometimes where there is a site plan approval as part of that, because we want that. But most cases, if it's a permitted use in the city of Sherman, site plan would go to P&Z, but not to council.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just know in the past we've seen zone changes and seen the site plans for them, and so I was curious. Sometimes we see them, sometimes we don't on the zone changes. So and with the new neighborhood commercial district, I wasn't sure on that in particular one. But yeah, I know multifamily you typically see them.
Yeah, and we don't do blind zoning. So whenever an applicant submits for a rezoning, they do have to submit a site plan, even if it's conceptual. Now, once it's approved by city council, if it is approved by city council, they can come in and revise that site plan and submit that to P&Z at however there's nothing that ties that applicant to that site plan that was submitted.
And Rob, real quick, can you just give us a quick refresher on neighborhood commercial?
Yeah, neighborhood commercial is a new zoning district that was created in December of last year as part of the larger zoning ordinance update. It's a little bit more restrictive on what uses are allowed, more focused on smaller scale retail and neighborhood commercial, as it's stated. There are less setback. The setback requirements are a little bit less because you're not dealing with more intense commercial uses. So So adjacent to single family is only 25-foot setback, where C1 or C2 district would have 40 or greater foot setback from single family.
Could you give me a definition of the blind zoning? What is that?
Blind zoning, Ryan may have to help me out on this one, but essentially they have to have a plan for, the applicant has to have a plan for what they're wanting to propose to council.
Yeah, and I would just clarify, and that's right, that despite the requests of the city to provide a proposed site plan that may be conceptual in nature, that does not allow the developer, gives them the flexibility to come in later and change the proposal, except if it's an SUP, because the SUP, as Rob mentioned, is tied down. The site plan that they present is tied down as part of the SUP. So if they're developing a property in accordance with the SUP and the uses that are approved by the SUP, then they have to develop it in accordance with the site plan that's attached to the SUP. That's not necessarily the true or the case when it comes to blanket zoning or zoning that's not an SUP.
Except for an SUP, okay.
And on this one in particular, E4, are we being asked to approve the site plan? I see that it says in the background that this is for a zone change and a site plan approval.
No, it technically is not a site plan approval for council.
Okay, thank you.
With that clarification, I'd move to approve 6600, 6601, and 6602 as written.
I had a quick question about 6602, if I could ask that right quick. And that is, I know that there are different Marriotts, but we've been burned by one here. And how soon are you going to break ground, and how, I understand their supply chain, et cetera. How long do you think it's going to take you to, once you break ground, build this particular, this Crossroads Spring Hill Suites?
Usually, I'd say in normal conditions, it would take us a year. It takes us about 6 or 7 months in design. Marriott is very strict on the approval process through their works on how long it takes them to approve your design. So that usually takes a good 6 or 7 months to get that done. I don't mind telling you, financing is going to be a real issue with interest rates raising like they have. But I would say, generally speaking, we're talking about 12 to 18 months.
Once you get started, you have your financing and everything.
Oh, once that's in place, we're ready to rock and roll. So it's however long it takes that to get in place.
Well,
And I will say, we've never, what is the terminology, burned by one before? We haven't gone down that road before at our company.
Well,
we don't plan for this to be our first.
okay, no, well, I know the other members of the city council know, that we have one that was started quite some time ago.
Yeah.
This is still quite some time away from being open, and that's why I was just curious as to, because there is a need for a hotel there, and so I look forward to it being. Thank you. And Councilman, if you want to finish what you were doing, thank you, sir.
I think they made a motion.
Are we just ready to vote?
We need a second.
We need a second.
We need a second.
Okay, I'll second it then.
Okay.
There you go.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council.
Okay, Midway Mall.
So on the mall project, this one gets a little confusing, and so we have some questions about this because it's zoned one entire block. The whole, I mean, I say that's what the proposal is, but the whole the map there doesn't give us a good explanation of where things are going, what they're doing, and a redevelopment plan, which I see was provided to planning and zoning, but not provided to us. So we have a hard time really understanding this without elevations or a development plan. And I know you obviously didn't bring those with you today, which is okay. Yeah. We have a hard, I think I do anyways. I don't know about we. I say I have a hard time understanding.
I need to see more detail on this as to how it is going to be done. To see, it's a little unclear to me, And I do have questions about how it's going to be set up so that there will be safety and other things with it. And so, if need be, I'm even in favor of tabling
Yeah, if
it.
we,
I think maybe we
I don't
need
want
to.
to have to pass around a
I
cell
think we
phone
might
for
need to,
looking at site plans. but-
Yeah.
Because at one point we talked about a truck driving school or something out there too, right? So
And I thought we got apartments approval out there as well in the past, but.
Yeah,
I would like to recommend, because I have quite a few questions about actually E6 and E7. And I think we need more information. And so I would like to recommend that we table both of these items.
Well, then we should do.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
we should
excuse me.
do
6610.
6, 7, and 9. Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah, we should table.
yes, you're correct.
6603, 6604, 6605, and 6606.
It's 4 of them.
6605.
Oh, 605 doesn't relate to.
Oh, it's just skip 8.
Skip 8.
E6, E79.
Yes.
Table.
We would like to table that, or at least that's my motion, that we table it, and you can provide more information, and then we can reconsider it. Am I right?
Yeah, for the record, is that motion related to E6, E7, and E9?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is there a specific date that you would ask that to be tabled to, or a period of time?
How soon can we get that information?
I could literally get it to you in 30 seconds right now.
I mean,
Oh, no,
we
but we're
can-
not gonna, we can't.
we can have it prior to the next
All
council
right.
meeting.
Okay, all right, the next council meeting.
Ryan, are we required to do a public hearing again for that tabling?
No, not because we did the public
we've already
hearing
had
here
public.
tonight. Another public hearing would not be required unless you wanted to continue the public hearing, which would allow people to speak at that time, but you would not need to go through another notice process. So that's up to y'all.
All right.
I'll second her motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move to approve E8, 6605.
Say.
I think we,
Okay.
6605 is an
So-
SUP for a mini warehouse at
Okay.
1417.
I'd like to ask some questions.
Okay.
All righty. I'm sorry. Am I allowed to do that? I'm looking at Ryan.
We got a motion and a
We
second.
got a motion
Okay,
second,
that's what I
unless,
thought.
unless the people who moved and seconded would allow that.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Y'all allow-
allow it.
Then yes.
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I have some questions regarding, I appreciate wanting to develop this area, and we want that to be successful. But I'm not quite sure that a mini warehouse is what would fit with the area that is being developed. And a lot of money and time has been spent there with the new Sherman High School. There's going to be a big stadium built there. And so I just have some questions regarding whether it fits the criteria for that area.
What will happen to the frontage road between the mini warehouse and 1417?
Is that a question
The
for Jeff?
land.
Yes, to the land. Is that still going to be developed?
Sure. Please.
I think what our master plan for the project is to make it a mini Sherman Crossroads, where we want to have some QSRs. hopefully-
Define QSRs for
these quick serve restaurants and some sit down restaurants if possible. We've been talking to a number of users. They feel the area is too green right now. The traffic counts on 1417 aren't quite there. So we are developing a daycare center that would be on the other eastern portion of the lot, fronting on West Travis. And as I said in my opening remarks, the problem with this site is it's too deep for most pad site type users. So in looking at the alternatives in terms of what really we can do that would be providing services that are needed for the growing residential community and the multifamily community, we felt like a small component, this is only 3 acres. Most self-serve projects are much larger than this. So it doesn't really overwhelm the project, but it's complementary to it, because what else could we put there when you have a depth that's too great for most commercial uses? Nobody will buy from front to back, which would have been my first preference. And had we had a residual piece of land that had more like 300 feet of depth rather than 450 feet of depth, then we wouldn't have had this. But we're putting some stormwater detention to serve in between the daycare and the self-serve, and then all the fronts going to be what you want to see and what I want to see, which is more traditional service retail, traditional retail. So we'd really appreciate your support on this, because the economics of the project are such that we really don't have any viable alternative use for that back portion because of the depth issue on the overall track.
What is the depth from 1417 to the back of the property?
I think it varies, but it's up to 450 feet.
I do agree with Pam on this. It just doesn't seem compatible to the vision of that area, but your argument's very good. Learning about the depth and whatnot, but I'm going to agree with Pam on her point.
And tell me, and I'm seeing on your site plan, does this exit and enter into the restaurant parking?
No, it doesn't. The entrance is going to be just an entrance off of Steeplechase. And we visited with the fire department about getting circulation, and we've got a plan that satisfied the fire department so that it's not necessary to have ingress egress from the restaurant area.
And what's the perimeter of the property? Is there a perimeter, a proposed perimeter brick wall, or what would be the?
Yes, all of the exterior facing any street, facing 1417, facing Steeplechase is going to be masonry.
And on the portion facing the high school there?
Yes, sir. That'll be the case too. And the portion facing interior will have a lower masonry requirement.
So if as the school district plans to build the new stadium here, are the people of Sherman going to look out and see masonry walls?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, the question is, considering you want to keep all the frontage for pad sites and it's too big, what else do you do with a long, narrow strip of land other than, you know what I mean? Like, let's talk about highest, best use. Like, what else could you possibly do with it other than?
We'd be glad to sell it back to city for a park.
Yeah. Damn, you want to buy it back?
So could we put in the, as Mr. Harkinson stated, the all walls to be masonry?
Mayor, if I could ask that you put the exterior perimeter walls.
I would make that.
And I see that it's a 6-foot fence between us and the school. I don't know, I know we can go up to 8 feet given our ordinance, correct?
Yeah, and I would clarify one things that was brought up at the P&Z meeting is that they would use the rear of the building as kind of their wall, and that where the gaps were, where the fire lanes, they have the hammerheads for the fire lanes, and that's where they would extend the wall to connect to each, or a fence, masonry fence to connect to each building. That was my understanding, Mr. Harkinson. But
well,
one of the things, use the back of the building.
One of the things that I didn't realize is that the school district's fence is not on the property line. So there's a gap between the fence, and the school district owns, I think, about 10 feet inside the fence, which visually appears to be part of our property, but is not. But you are correct that we are going to make that masonry, and we're going to pretty much isolate that basically both from the school district and from the balance of the project.
And there already is a requirement that all the buildings, because it's in the overlay district, the 1417 overlay district, that the buildings are required to be masonry.
Well, I would amend my motion to include requiring exterior perimeter walls be masonry.
I'm trying to find a way to agree to this, and I'm having a hard time. I'm sorry, so just bear with me. All right, I'm going to get into the weeds here. All right, that is close enough to Sherman High School, and you're going to have a masonry wall. Can we make a requirement that the masonry wall that faces Sherman High School have like the word Bearcat or Bearcat supporters or maroon? I mean, I know that I'm trying to find a way to do that, and I don't know that you would be agreeable to that.
Can you, when we're talking about masonry,
Bearcat storage. There you go.
would you be willing to make the colors complementary to the high school?
Yeah. I think that'd be great. I mean, we named our project intentionally Bearcat Crossing because, you know, my wife's a Bearcat. So, you know, we wanted to do something that would be complementary to the high school and not conflicting with the high school. And part of the reason for us acquiring the property from the city in the first place was its proximity to the high school. So we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot or the citizens in the foot. We're just trying to do something that, you know, our options are extremely limited on the use of that strip of land. And we're only talking about 3 acres out of the whole project.
And on the, I mean, I know that you're not here for this, but on the continuation there to Travis Street, obviously that's your major hard corner there. The
hard corner we've saved. The city's original site plan had that as stormwater detention, but we felt like that's the most desirable and valuable piece of our property. So working with our engineer, Jim Riley, we've engineered for the stormwater detention to be located on the eastern side of the property, in between the daycare center and the proposed self-storage.
But there's no future continuation of this self-storage along
Absolutely
the entire
not.
fence
No,
line.
it's limited to that one area, and we don't really want more.
Well, I do think it changes my opinion a little bit that it's masonry and it's going to be a brick wall. I mean, it's definitely, again, I don't know that it's.
It'll be brick or stone.
Brick or stone, right?
Maybe stone.
Does change the opinion just a little bit for me.
Okay. All right. Well, then, I'm going to make a motion.
Wait a minute, we've got a motion.
Okay, we've got a motion, and how do we?
They pulled it. Is it pulled it?
No, he allowed.
Put it on hold.
I amended it.
He amended it. Okay.
Right.
Do we need to amend it any further?
Could we restate it and see where we stand?
Yeah, I'll restate. I move to approve 6605 with the requirement that exterior perimeter walls be masonry.
And stone.
And
school colors.
And school colors.
Oh, and stone.
Complementary colors.
Complementary colors.
And complement.
If I remember correctly, that's maroon, isn't it?
Yes, and complement the colors of
Maroon and white.
Maroon and white.
There you go.
Right, sir. Ask your wife.
Okay.
She'll help you. Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you, members. Appreciate your consideration.
Hey, tell your wife we're looking out for them.
I will. She'll be
Looking
very
out for
happy.
Thank
you, Sal.
Okay. So that leaves us.
3 more.
Yep.
Yeah.
6609 and 6610. I move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We're down to 6611.
I saved the best for last, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
So, looking at this property, what's around it, the fact that it hasn't been developed, I guess I'm at a loss of what planning and zoning specific issues were. Rob, could you?
And there was no reason given for the denial. There was an original motion that was made in the second to approve it, and 4 people dissented on that, and so therefore it went back. A second motion was to deny, and that denial was upheld.
So they didn't make any requests that
Just denied it.
that the person making the request changed their request. And they didn't give any reasons why.
There was no feedback that we received during the open session.
It was a 4-3 vote. Is that right?
4-2.
4-2. Yeah. Did somebody abstain, or were they missing?
The chairman didn't vote on that one, as sometimes that happens.
4-2, no reason.
I tend to think that the other properties in the area fit a very similar use, and this property is likely not going to be developed other than something similar to this in the future. So, I mean, I've got no problem with it.
Yeah, I've looked at it 6 ways from Sunday, and I can't figure out what the issue was. So,
Wouldn't new development actually increase the aesthetics of surrounding properties, which is one of planning and zoning's key factors?
Yeah.
Plus, this is stated in here, compatible with the City of Sherman's comprehensive plan.
It is.
And there was no feedback from the Housing Authority or any other.
Well, now, we'll tell you,
There was no opposition.
And no neighborhood opposition either?
And there's two dead-end streets there that probably create problems for our EMS and fire services, long dead-end streets. So,
And the developer's going to put in streets, right?
That's correct.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second.
Motion, please.
John.
Easy.
Okay,
And
all,
who was the second? Thank you.
Josh. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, council, thank you. Moving right along, we're to item F1, approving and authorizing publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation. Mary, good evening.
Good evening. This is the first step in issuing what was started about a year ago during the budget process. When we first started talking about the 2023 certificates of obligation, we finalized that list at the workshop a couple weeks ago. This also sets our calendar. The sale will be on August 21st, and we'll receive the proceeds on September 21st. The projects, excuse me, the projects included are from the budget workshop. So is there any other questions?
Let me add also, so the list of projects, the specific projects we kind of talked about at the budget workshop, the actual resolution is more broad than that. And so we have the ability to fund any of these lists of projects or types of projects through this money. So in other words, this list doesn't specify that we're going to be spending X amount of dollars on X project. It really is just the approval to issue bonds that totals $77.75 million. And so long as we use all of that money only on projects that are, or project types that are specified here, then we're good with that. So we have the ability to move money around right now if this bond eventually gets approved to anything that's on that list. So this list is more broad than even the list that we talked about at the workshop, because it contains broad categories like street improvements that can be used for any number of streets. So,
Robbie, I know we had some folks come speak on City Hall in particular as it relates to this agenda item.
Yeah.
And we're uncertain where we stand on that yet, because we haven't heard back from our consultants on, the needs and the things that we listed off in the budget workshop.
Right.
I just want some clarity to understand that the $7.5 million that's been allocated for City Hall in the background of this issue, I thought that was on there. Maybe that was just at the budget workshop.
Right.
That in no way gives any kind of authority to move forwards with planning or expenses or land acquisitions for the City Hall. That would all, obviously, we're waiting on some feedback to come back before we make any decisions on timing of when to do all those things, or if those things.
Yeah, so what we owe the council are answers on some of those questions that were brought up at the workshop, number one. Number two, a report back ultimately from consultants on kind of visioning for the campus and for downtown. After that, there would be a number of actions that the council would have to take before we could go spend any money. There's another action to actually approve the bond sale. So that's number one. Number two, we would have to approve the contract to even engineer the building. Any land purchases would have to come back to you. Contract for construction of City Hall would have to come back. So there are still a lot of steps in the process. And so what this does, though, is allow us to get the ball rolling on issuing of this bond, some of which could be used for any of those things that we talked about at the budget workshop, including a land purchase. But this doesn't authorize the city staff to go and do any of those things. So,
Even if it's less than $50,000 on a land acquisition?
yeah, I mean, there's.
I wouldn't think there's anything that's
Yeah.
less than.
Is there?
If there is, get it.
Right. Yeah, there's not going to be, that's not going to be an issue. So now what we will have to come back for, we're waiting to, I think we have a meeting later this week with Gensler for them to scope and price getting some of the information that you guys requested. It's probably going to be less than 100,000, I would guess. I don't know. That's just that's not design, or I mean that may be a little bit of design to help narrow down what costs would be, but it's really a scope of the projects to bring back the information you requested at the budget workshop.
Okay, so just for clarification and one more time, we are not bonding $60 million to build a new city hall.
Correct.
That's not happening. We are including it in a list of projects that we may undertake, and we are a long, long way from that point, correct?
That's right.
And to the gentleman's point in the audience, if we so chose to move forwards with fixing roads and fixing other streets instead of building a city hall, this money would be available for those uses, and we have that listed.
That's correct.
To be able
That's
to.
correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Linda, if you'll read F2 for us, please.
Resolution 7092, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing execution of the First Amendment of the Master Development Agreement between the City of Sherman and Sherman Hickory Hill LLC for the construction of public facilities of the planned development known as Hickory Hill, being an approximate 150.434 acre residential development west of Carriage Estates Road in the City of Sherman, Texas.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Robbie?
Yeah, so this is amending our master development agreement with Sherman Hickory Hill. As it says, we have now a plan to move forward on some of the infrastructure items, namely the utility infrastructure that the original master development agreement really allowed for either the developer or the city to construct these things. Well, we now have clarity where the city will be the one installing the water and sewer, and we issued a approval to do that very recently. But it also provides that the developer will participate in this via escrowing funds ahead of time, or within 20 days, I think is what the language says, of us starting. So it provides not only for reimbursement, but the method of reimbursement via this escrow account. So this is really kind of cleaning up the language in that MDA to allow us to start on the infrastructure pieces, water and sewer infrastructure pieces of the project.
There's no additional financial consideration other than what we originally agreed to in the original NDA.
Right. It still is cost sharing for this, and there are other parts. Just be reminded. So we've got the road sections that we're still kind of working through, and there's kind of moving parts on that one as well that we'll bring back. This may also ultimately, because we don't have the roads, estimates and whatnot final. May be a modification to reimbursement agreement for that. But the essence of it is the developer is paying for a lane of the roads, and we're paying for a lane, and we're kind of splitting the baby there. So
Well, I'll make a motion to approve 7092.
Is there a second for that one?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Linda, if you'll read F3 for us, please.
Resolution 7093, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman approving the Greater Texoma Utility Authority's intention to approve Amendment Number 2 with Garney Companies Incorporated for the 36-inch West Sherman water main, construction manager at risk.
Thank you, Linda. Tom, good evening.
Only one, Tom. Congratulations. We're very proud.
I know, just one.
Good evening, Mayor, Honorable Council. So this project.
Oh, does he? I spoke too soon.
Pardon?
So you have two.
You're good. They're just.
I got this one and the next one. So beginning at a time when, before major industrial growth, the city had sought to discharge concentrate waste that the wastewater the water treatment plant is currently discharging, and it goes through the city mains to our wastewater treatment plant. With the increased flows that we're predicting at the water treatment plant, that undertaking has become no longer tenable. So what we did in 2021 is we hired LAN engineers to work up a concentrate discharge permit. They looked at, in that study, they looked at routes, and we came up with what was considered the best alternative. We then used Plummer to put together a discharge permit, and we submitted that to the TCEQ. The TCEQ had approved that permit back in, I guess it was November of 22. The permit had restrictive limits that were going to be very difficult to meet. The TCEQ had agreed that if we went through a aquatic use study, that if it was no detriment to wildlife, that we could go ahead and proceed with lower reduced discharge limits. We got that approved through the Texas through Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. We did all the publications. We then hired Pate Dawson in November to design the lift station and discharge route. That project is 95% complete. In the middle of all of this, we had major industrial expansion and growth, and to accelerate the process, we've requested that Garney Companies, our CMAR contractor, to undertake this task. So we have before you proposal from Garney to do this work. With your approval, we will go ahead and continue to execute the contracts and let Garney include that in their CMAR contract. Answer any questions if you have any.
So Tom, I see you saved us $100 on pre-construction phase services. We appreciate that.
Well, I thought somebody might want a little bit of background since it started in 21.
Okay.
Well, I'll move to approve 7093.
Second. Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Linda, if you'll read F4 for us, please.
Resolution 7094, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with Park Hill Smith and Cooper Incorporated, doing business as Park Hill, for groundwater analysis and development, Phase 1 hydrologic conditions assessment and model.
Thank you, Linda. Tom?
I'll keep this one shorter. So what we would like to do is we've got with Park Hill Smith and Cooper, called Park Hill. They're engineers that do have considerable experience in groundwater modeling. We would like to entertain a study of where we can drill and how much water we may be able to expect. Groundwater, you kind of like never know what you're going to get, but we have a lot of wells. We have 23 wells, and we can use the data from a lot of those wells and a lot of other adjacent wells. We could look at the porosity of the sand and stuff like that. And that's what they would do. They would model that so that we could focus our efforts on the best location for a future water well. With your all's approval, we will proceed to execute contracts and begin this process. I would expect results in 4.5 months.
Tom, this was based on feedback that we gave to look into the well system to figure out what more capacity we could gain.
That's right.
Yep. Move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
It was in our existing master plan. It was proposed in the master plan.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, council, we've got an item, appoint, remove, or consider qualifications to boards and commissions. We have the Parks and Rec Advisory Board this evening.
I move to reappoint Mr. Rose.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are going to council comments. Henry, I'm going to start with you.
All right. I just want to say a great job with the hot summer night last week. Big crowd, so very proud.
Yeah, that was fantastic, and we did a lot of work here tonight. So I just appreciate council and you guys hanging in with us. There was a lot of agenda items, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, good job, Linda.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
All right, so just a few announcements tonight. Hot Summer Nights has been absolutely amazing so far this summer, with more than 10,000 people coming out to hear the live music. This week, we welcome back a great rock band when Tinder comes to town, so make plans to come out and see the best free concert series in Texas, literally the best. Lights on the Lake is fast approaching, as it's now one week away. Join us on July 3rd for a great concert by rock and roll legends Cheap Trick, also members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, followed by fireworks over the water. The park opens to public at 4 p.m. Finally, tonight, Grayson County CASA will host their 30th anniversary celebration on July 8th at 9 a.m. at Kid Key Park. It should be a great day for the whole family, supporting one of our most important local charities. All right, the City Council will now hold a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, it's section 551.071, to receive legal advice regarding Southgate Apartments located at 915 South Travis Street, Sherman, Texas. At section 551.074 to appoint to the Civil Service Commission and the Sherman Housing Authority, and at section 551.087 to discuss the hospital project and the downtown retail incentive program. So at 6:22, we'll recess into executive